Growing up, I'd always been curious about the old Victorian house my family lived in. It had been in our family for generations, and there were secrets hidden in its time-worn walls. However, the secrets I was about to uncover in the attic were beyond anything I could have imagined. One summer afternoon, while exploring the attic, I noticed something strange, a door I had never seen before. It was almost camouflaged against the faded wallpaper, its wood weathered, and the brass handle tarnished with age. With trembling hands, I turned the handle, revealing a room that had been concealed for decades. The room was bathed in a dim, eerie light, and a heavy sense of foreboding hung in the air. In the center of the room stood an ornate, antique crib, draped with a cobweb-covered canopy. Beside it, a faded photograph rested on a dusty table. It depicted a family I didn't recognize, dressed in early 20th century attire, smiling as they stood beside the very crib that now stood before me. As I approached the crib, a shiver ran down my spine. It felt as though the room itself was holding its breath, as though time had stopped in this forgotten chamber. I reached out to touch the crib's weathered wood, and that's when I heard it, the faintest whisper, like a breath of wind through the ages. "She's waiting." The voice was barely audible, a haunting refrain that sent a chill coursing through my veins. I recoiled from the crib, my heart racing, but the voice continued, growing more insistent with each passing moment. That night, I couldn't sleep. The words echoed in my mind, and I tossed and turned, tormented by a sense of unease that refused to dissipate. As the hours passed, I began to hear something else, a faint, mournful cry, like that of a baby. It seemed impossible. My parents were away on vacation, and I was the only one in the house. I got out of bed and followed the sound, which led me to the attic. As I climbed the stairs, the cries grew louder and more desperate, like the wails of a child in distress. When I reached the attic, the room was no longer shrouded in darkness. It was bathed in an eerie, moonlit glow. The cries were coming from the crib. My heart raced as I approached, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into something beyond my understanding. But when I reached the crib, there was no baby. Instead, there was a presence, a spectral figure, a woman in a long, tattered dress, her hair disheveled, and her eyes empty of life. She stared at me with a mournful gaze, and then she spoke, her voice a haunting whisper. "Help her." I couldn't move. Fear held me in its grip as the room seemed to close in around me. The woman's words repeated like a mantra, and the cries of the unseen baby echoed in my ears. Morning came, but the room was empty, the cries silenced. I tried to tell my parents what had happened, but they dismissed it as a nightmare. They couldn't see what I had seen, couldn't feel the presence that lingered in that forgotten room. As the days passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been awakened in that attic. A restless spirit, a long-forgotten tragedy. The room became an obsession, and I returned to it time and time again, trying to uncover the truth of its haunted history. But the room held its secrets close, revealing only glimpses of a past that was both tragic and mysterious. I couldn't escape the feeling that the room was waiting for me, for something I couldn't yet comprehend. The forgotten room had become a portal to a world beyond our own, a world where time and reality blurred, and the cries of a lost soul echoed through the ages. And as I stood before the crib, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden in the shadows of that ancient house, waiting to be uncovered.